Hello and welcome back. This is Rob from GRAF, and today I'm going to continue my series talking about agricultural projects around the world. Let me fire up my PowerPoint and we'll get going. Okay, so today's presentation is going to be about Fordlandia, which I've titled The American Dream in Brazil. What's Fordlandia about? Well, everyone knows Henry Ford. He's credited with being one of the instigators and early pioneers of the automobile industry. He's most famous, of course, for the Model T Ford, which held a record for the amount of units produced for a long time. Until the middle of the last century, there was over 15 million Model Ts produced when production finally ceased. He wasn't a trained engineer, but he came out with some fantastic innovations in engineering and engine production and manufacturing. He's of course credited with developing mass production, or the production line, which allowed him to greatly reduce the cost of production of the Model T through its lifespan, making it affordable for the average man. He also increased wages quite considerably in his factory to make sure the average man could afford to buy the car. He had flaws as well, but we'll not talk about those today. We'll talk about Fordlandia. So what was the project about? Well, Henry Ford used a lot of rubber in his car tires and in other parts of his car. And he wasn't particularly happy about the fact that Britain had a monopoly on rubber production. Throughout the British Empire, they had rubber plantations which produced most of the world's rubber. He started looking in Central America, but ended up settling on Brazil after he discovered rubber trees growing there naturally. He did a deal with the Brazilian government where they would give him 10,000 square kilometers of land to produce a rubber plantation, and in return, he would give them 9% share of the profits. He decided then to start and develop the land and built a town for 10,000 employees, both American managers and local workers. And as I said, the aim was to grow rubber and develop a large rubber plantation for car tires and for other parts in the motor vehicle. This was started in 1926, and by 1928, they'd built a port on the river, a model American town with hospitals, schools, and libraries, and eventually white picket fences around the houses. There was also a separate part of the town for the local Brazilian workers. The engineers and managers that came out had cleared lots of land and started to develop nurseries and plantations of rubber trees, all planted in nice, neat rows close together. They were applying their engineering and manufacturing knowledge to agriculture, the knowledge of mass production to rubber production. And as you guessed, this is Fordlandia today. These are some of the administration buildings, the schools and hospitals, all lying in ruins. So what went wrong? Well, it's an age-old story. First of all, logistics were an absolute nightmare. There was no road network. Everything had to come in by boat, by river. But more importantly, Ford sent out his managers, trusted managers, from his manufacturing facilities. They had no knowledge of agriculture in general, never mind tropical agriculture. They applied their manufacturing and engineering principles to growing rubber. They planted trees in nice, neat rows as close together as possible, because after all, that way they would maximize rubber production per hectare. The problem is rubber trees naturally don't grow close together. If you grow them close together, they're very vulnerable to pests and diseases. And secondly, you don't monocrop them. Rubber trees need the support of other different species to protect them and give them support. So all these factors rounded up to make the project an absolute disaster. It wasn't wound up though until the 1940s, when synthetic rubber was able to be produced using industrial methods. And it's not known exactly how much money was lost in this project, because Ford was famous for not trusting accountants. His business was never audited under his leadership. It is said that income and expenses were measured by taking all the invoices every month and weighing them in a set of scales. I don't know whether that's true or not. Any comment on this, on developing agriculture in Brazil or Africa, which is where our interest is, drop me a line on LinkedIn. Thanks very much for now.